Hey man, it's Phil X, and you're watching Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen. And Guitar Tales, guitar tales. Like, what else do you need, right? Guitar. We're geeks, nerds, gear, inspirations, positive vibes. Look out.
What a great show we have in front of us tonight. And before we move on to anything else, if you guys are not following Phil X, oh my God, the career of this man who did that bumper for us, toured with Bon Jovi, now he is touring with Triumph. Absolutely amazing. The clips we're seeing from those Triumph shows, a fantastic band to begin with. He is doing great work helping that fantastic band that's part of a lot of our respective pasts in a great way. So check out our friend of the show, Phil X. I think he's a 3-time guest. But forget Phil, we have Max Deering today, and that's going to be a phenomenal show. But we have to pay the bills first. So let's get some of our sponsors here. Scott, if you could pull them in a little bit. Andy's Burgers, sitting in right inside of Confections of a Rock Star. But Andy's Burgers, phenomenal. Look at this. Look at those loaded fries. Absolutely fantastic. Now is the time. Now is the season. Find your way over to Asbury Park, Cookman Avenue. And we did it backwards in a great way. Confections of a Rock Star is the home of Andy's Burgers. They have the best treats. But here's the cool thing. It is, you can see, rock and roll themed. They are serious bakers. They got food for people, food for pups. But at the same time, you as a rock fan in the middle of Asbury Park on Cookman Avenue, you will do what our friend Alice Cooper does. You will go to Confections of a Rock Star. It's fantastic. We're going to talk with Scott. We're going to talk with Max Deering about the really interesting issues regarding having a studio. And it's something we've done a lot of gear shows. We've done people shows. We've done pickups. We've done necks. We've done strings. We've done everything you could think of about guitar, but we have not done a studio yet. So Scott and I are super excited for this. So Scott, why don't you hop in the studio and let's start chatting.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my friend.
Today's guitar is a genuine, or as they say in North Carolina, genuine Fender Stratocaster 1979. I got that for Christmas one year, and it's still in my collection. So with all the shenanigans going on with Fender and the cease and desist, and they just served up John Mayer's little guitar there, that Silver Sky thing.
Did they really?
Every bit as exactly as Fender, except for the headstock. So yeah, that was big news, music news today. He's going to get a lawsuit, I guess.
That's feeling desperate to me.
Unfortunate.
You know, I could put my lawyer head on a little bit for that. So one of the first things they teach us about in law school is Band-Aids.
Mm.
And what's really interesting is that Band-Aid is not, the adhesive thing you put on your hand. Band-Aid is a brand name.
Right.
So they're actually called Band-Aid bandages.
Mm-hmm.
But they were so incredibly successful that we all grew up calling any kind of bandage a Band-Aid. And I wonder if when the various Fender-esque builders begin defending themselves, if they will start using it, and it's not my area of law, but I wonder if they will start using that kind of analogy that it's a Strat type body, and whether or not Fender really can own something that's become that much a part, of the vernacular.
As the story unfolds, we were talking about we wanted to get maybe an attorney that does this kind of law work and hear what how he or she dissects intellectual property and all that kind of stuff. And do they have a legal leg to stand on here in the United States? Now, this is by and large a thing that happened in Germany. So I guess it affects the European countries and not the United States yet, but
it's coming.
Yeah, it's happening. Anyway, with that, why don't we bring on Max, who's fluttering in and out of internet world here. I don't know what's going on with our servers, but that's okay. We'll edit all that shit out and it'll look really great.
Well,
Max,
there he is.
welcome all the way
Gentlemen,
from Graham, North
welcome.
Carolina. Where'd you come up with the name? I love the name.
Oh, Dark Pine?
Dark Pine.
All right. I went through a couple of iterations and everybody said, sounds like a damn trailer park. Because I was calling it Gemini Pines because I had 2 pine trees that, you could determine that that's where the property was. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a landmark. You can see the trees and find the property, come on the property. And then Duke Power came in and cut them down.
After all that.
And I'm like, oh, shit.
So I guess that's the local power company by you guys?
Yeah.
I
mean,
that's pretty funny.
Well, I have pine trees in front of my property with wires running through them. I wonder if I'm going to lose those someday.
We have by me a restaurant, and they're called Hollow Pines. So, and it's a huge, just opened about 3 months ago. Okay. Huge place, wildly successful. So that name immediately appealed to me when I heard that. I'm looking behind you, and I'm seeing the nice woodwork back there.
Yeah.
So I bet you have a nice accommodating environment there.
Yeah. I like to think it does. I like to think it doesn't suck.
All right, that's a win, right?
Yeah. I mean,
here it is. That's your ad campaign. I got the chills. It doesn't suck.
It doesn't suck. That's right.
Well, now I got to tell you the backstory on that. I went to college at EKU, and I had a drum professor, and he would record your lessons for you, and he would play them back at half speed against a metronome, and you found out how bad you really sucked.
Right.
And so you always try to improve and try to get better. Well, we did an ensemble, percussion ensemble at the end of the year, and we all got done with the performance, and he said, "Don't anybody move." And we were like, "Oh shit," because seniors are like, "This is my final grade. This determines whether I'm going to graduate or not." And he looked at us all and he said, "You got 97% of it right." He said, "But at least it didn't suck." So it's just like well, I kind of hung around for a while.
I love that. I love that.
It's definitely a cozy space to record in. I mean, and for those that don't know, Max has got an incredible social media following, and he's up and coming. It's one of those guys that I saw, and immediately I love what this guy's saying. I love his attitude. I love his sense of humor, and
you got to have a sense of humor in this.
Yeah,
you gotta.
It's been great. So he's putting up all this content, and it really caught our attention. But one of the things he talked about was how guys come in and they either want super bright or super intimate. And even just the decor in the studio space is inviting. Some places you go, it's very sterile and generic, and the walls are white.
Either that or everything's flame red,
right?
Or it's bright yellow, and it's just like, I want a place where I can go as a musician and I feel comfortable. Right. I want to be at ease. I don't want to have to be, I'm not. I don't want to walk into a clinical environment. I don't want to walk into some place that's like a mausoleum. I want some place where I can go in. And if I want to take a drink into the tracking room with me, I can. I can set it down. I might have to clean up my mess if I knock it over, but where I'm allowed to be a human being. And one of the things that I found over the years is that some musicians, especially the hard rockers, they want to sweat. If they ain't sweating, they ain't doing anything.
I could see that. It becomes sterile.
Yeah.
If they're not sweating, right?
Yeah. And, then there's other guys that come in and they're like, "Man, I'm sweating like a rented mule. Can you cool this thing off in here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll freeze you out. I don't care."
Yeah.
Right.
And then, so, temperature has become I've become very aware of temperature being really, an essential part of it. And then lighting. Sometimes they start to get self-conscious because, there's all this light in here, and they just want a little light on, just a single pin spot on the music stand, while they sing.
Yep.
and that's fine, and we were talking about this earlier. I had one band come in. They were doing ballads. They were kind of older guys, and I'm like, do you want it a little bit softer? And he's like, no, can you turn it up a little bit? He says, like, I'm about half damn blind. I can't see my fretboard.
Right.
Not a problem, man. I blew it up and give them lots of bright light. So it's you have to kind of be able to tailor things around. The way I've got my lights set up in the tracking room is I've got 4 different angles. They're on a grid, in all 4 directions, and I can turn them up, turn them down. I can gel them, and try and cater.
I was going to ask if you had any of those fancy internet lights that change color like I have at my house.
I originally thought, well, maybe I should have put in LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm hearing that LEDs will give some guys headaches and that kind of thing.
Right.
So I've got a combination of LEDs and halogens and regular par 38s. So I can make it as warm or as cool. I can gel them and
like you said, you could put any gel color.
Yeah,
gelling means they put like a mask color.
color in there.
Yeah.
Do your people periodically, do they videotape themselves? They want to create a history of what they're recording. So,
this is where it's gotten really kind of interesting, at least down here. And I'm seeing it in other parts of the country and in other countries. The video is now almost an essential part of your marketing thing.
Yeah.
So, so what I do is I've actually got a podcast. It's called Live from Dark Pine Studios. You can catch it on YouTube. And I try to feature local bands and regional bands that come in. It's kind of a cross between Live from Daryl's House and Tiny Desk.
Because I saw the live performances in there. You set them all up and bring them in, and
let them have at it.
It looks really great. Of course, it sounds really great because you got a professional at the helm. Which which brings up a point. Like a lot of people doing this home studio stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cutting in your business in some sense, but in another sense, if they're doing it wrong at home.
Well, wrong or right, one of the things that I started out doing this crap. Probably 1970, 68, 69.
Wow.
I had a mono cassette, and we put it on top of the mixing board in the room,
Yeah.
So,
and there you go.
Yeah. There's some suck.
Yeah.
So, when I actually got into recording, my stuff was not that good. I didn't have really good experience. I didn't have really good equipment.
Yeah.
So thank God some of those mixes don't even exist anymore.
Right.
But, one of the things that I try to tell people is, especially now that we've got some of the great quality that's available to home recordists, is use the studio for what you can't record well.
Mm-hmm.
Which is usually like drums,
piano,
and vocals,
an acoustic piano sometimes,
which I've got a Grand and Hammond and Wurlitzer or Rhodes. A lot of guys, they have to use the artificial thing, but if they want to use the real thing, they're here.
Right.
So come in and use the studio for those things, and then do everything else at home.
Right, because people can mix at home like in a way that they weren't able to even 5 years ago.
Oh yeah. But if you want to take it to the next level, I can mix, or you can come here and mix. You can hire a producer to work with you and bring the producer in here.
Right.
It's kind of a weird thing. I'm not going to say that it's strictly in the Southeast, but I've noticed it here in the Southeast U.S. That a lot of studios, when you book time, the guy who's there in the studio, he's going to be your producer,
right?
Or you don't come in. He's going to be your engineer, or you don't come in. They're not used to the professional studio environment that I've, been reading about all these years, which is, you call up, did you guys know about Big Blue Meanie?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great bunch of guys up there. Their motto was, "We're not happy till you're not happy."
I love
Classic,
that.
yeah, classic Jersey attitude. It was
Yeah.
great. And you could hire the studio, just like with any of the big professional studios. You can hire the studio, you can hire their engineer, you can hire their producer, or you can bring in your own engineer and your own producer. You're
Right.
just going to have to pay for the A2, the assistant to come in and make sure you don't blow stuff up.
So
Right.
speaking of assistants, I mean, in order to get something rigged and set up for a session, I would imagine you'd have some help. I know you have interns.
Yeah,
Let's run all those wires, set up all those mics, and all that stuff.
I can do it myself. I mean, hell, I actually started out before I really got into, or as I was getting into the recording thing, I
Right.
started running a lot of live sound. And so, I, run everything from, little 4-channel boards all the way up to, 64-channel live consoles. Been thrown into monitor world with anything and everything under the sun. So I did a lot of live stuff. So, I've learned to adapt and, kind of prearrange things, and I know how to set up for anything and everything that comes in the studio.
Like during COVID, the session studio guys were busy as shit. They were.
Yeah.
I did one at the Stone Pony with my band for a big benefit during COVID. We showed up with masks on, and they set up the whole club, and we shot one song 3 times, and then they put the whole video together and everything, and the sound, and it was a massive undertaking for free.
Yeah.
For a charity, musicians charity in our area. But and a couple of bands did live feeds from clubs, just the band and just this, the audio and engineers and videographers were there, and just a massive amount of gear to do a live shot.
Yeah.
Oh,
live
yeah.
Show without
It's
an
crazy.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very nuts. Now, technology wise, let's talk about plugins. So let's just pretend we don't know what a plugin is. I actually, you know what? I don't think Dave even knows what a plugin is, honestly.
I know.
He thinks that the thing you put in the wall to make your house smell nice, the plugin. But
I
that's
don't
not
use
the kind
those. I don't like them.
the kind of plugin we're talking about. So what's a plugin, and why are we using too many of those?
Oh, yeah. You saw that one, huh?
I
Okay.
did see that. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. A plug-in, you guys know what a compressor is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Squashes a signal. Well, we use the same thing, in mixing, to tame signals down. Well, a plug-in is a software version of that works inside of your digital audio workstation. And you have stock ones that come from all the manufacturers, whether you're using Pro Tools or Logic or whatever. And then other people make extra, or they make their own version of these different things. And it can be an equalizer or a compressor or any number of different effects. But, compressors and plugins seem to be what everybody wants to make at some point. And so, sometimes they're, $2, sometimes they're $200, sometimes they're, $300, $400 for, single plugin. Now you can use that plugin on every channel that you've got if you wanted to. And so there's this kind of odd thing that's been happening ever since the advent of all this, home recording and digital technology, is that guys seem to, take the mentality of whoever dies, or he who dies with the most toys wins. So, they've got 64, different EQ plugins, and they got, 64 different compressors. And it's just like, the hell's wrong with you?
And why?
Yeah. I mean, so what if you got 9 of them for free? Or I don't care if you got all 64 of them for free. You don't need 64. You can probably get by with, 4, 5, 6, because there's really only about 5 or 6 different types of compressors. I mean, when you think about things like distortion pedals, that's a little bit different of an animal.
Right.
Very different, right?
Oh yeah, because Tube Screamer is going to be a completely different sound from Big Muff versus anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But compressors, there's really only a couple of actual types that these guys are modeling their stuff after, and they can have their characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
And so after you have one or two of each one, do you really need 24 friggin' more?
Yeah, right.
Because the only real difference is what it looks like on your screen. It's going to do the same shit. It's not going to do anything different.
Again, we gave you a warning earlier to watch your fucking language on this show, please.
Right.
Exactly.
Sorry about that. And I have interns who come in, and this is not a slam against any of my interns, but because they don't know, they're in school, they're going to a university or they're going to a community college and they're learning recording. And when you first get into this, you're like, okay, well, I probably ought to get at least one of these. So they've got maybe 6 or 8, 10, 12 different plugins, of each thing. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I see them, I look at their, plugin list and it's just like, damn thing scrolls, and it's just like, whoa.
And I mean, I know it's digital, but is it degrading the sound at some point when you're just overdoing that? It's just no reason to have them.
It's just a waste, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of these companies, you're going to pay. I'm going to kind of guesstimate on a ballpark.
Generalizing,
average. Yeah. General. They're probably. It's probably a high average, $100 a piece.
Yeah.
So you've got 6. At $100 a piece. You got 60 of these damn things, and you can only and you really only use 2 or 3 out of the whole bunch.
Right.
You
so then
threw away a lot of money.
It is. Let me ask you this: in terms of that kind of technology. So I'm remote today.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm back at my home Guitar Tales studio, and I've got my little, AirPods. These fuckers here.
Yeah.
In the world of, and I probably sound fine for this really low end technology. But what's funny, and this is where I'd like some commentary from you. So Scott and I, Scott has a really nice mic. I have, I think, the same one. We spent a few $100s on it, and we have a really nice. We each have really nice cameras and all that. In your world, I would imagine the people walking through the doors of Dark Pines, some people might be looking for the old school touch, which is a little more analog, a little more tube, and you got this shit, right? So what is this sort of, if there is one, the tension between the new technology, which is pretty damn good, but there's no warmth, there's no character to it, versus, but look, these are cheap and they're working nicely. What are you feeling in your studio in terms of your design, your sort of artistic vision of what you want to get done for your people? So, what you might want, and then what the people walking through the doors of Dark Pines want in terms of new versus old technology.
Yes. Boy, this will get some people pissed off.
We like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I started out analog, there wasn't digital. Yeah,
it didn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had 3 channels and I was remote control. Mom would say, go change the channel.
Could you imagine editing this show together with actual tape and taping it together with a razor blade and shit?
Right.
No.
Like I used to cut commercials in college.
Yeah.
With cutting the,
yeah.
And that was audio only. That wasn't even the video stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In video, you gotta, no, thanks. So when I opened the studio, I had ADATs. And so I was like, okay, I got to switch over to Pro Tools if I'm going to be in the industry. Found out Pro Tools was the industry standard, so I got Pro Tools. And I'm like, oh, this stuff is fun. drove me friggin' nuts, man. I
The
mean,
learning curve must be brutal.
oh yeah, I mean,
Right.
the learning curve is like, and you're like,
Yeah.
Right.
oh shit, And so I climbed that hill and I made it, and I started to kind of get a handle on this. And I had some really good friends who kind of took me under their wing and said, "No, you're doing something stupid here.
Hmm.
Do something less stupid by doing this."
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so I got less and less stupid, and that was 20 years ago. Then I really started to dial in on this stuff, and I'm like, okay, my mixes don't sound as good as my live shows when I'm mixing them. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Hmm.
Why can't I get my mixes in this room, purpose built, in purpose designed and built recording studio? Why can't I get my mixes to sound, half as meaty and beefy and wide and depth and everything else, and have all the detail? I'm like, this is insane. For what I spent, I'm like, no, this is crazy. So I grabbed my old mobile recording studio console and brought it in here and cobbled it into the Pro Tools system. And I was just like, oh,
Eureka.
whoa, yeah, something, whoa, huh? And when I started thinking about it, not that it really matters that much, but my degree's in electronics engineering technology. And so, I worked in the medical profession, I worked on cardiac cath labs. And so, I understand this A to D conversion. I was part of, the first digital video in the medical industry. So I understand D to A technology. I understand the digital technology integrating in with the analog technology because, our X-ray generators were digital controlled analog. And I'm like, okay, knowing what I know about circuitry, this kind of makes sense that maybe it's something to do with, analog is got a little bit more room on each channel than it does when you just crowd everything into a 2-bus or the output bus. And so I'm like, okay, well, shit. Now I'm going to get a console. And so I searched and I was getting ready to buy another console. And when I first built the studio, I originally wanted this one console that I was looking for because they said it's a combination of Neve, an API, and an SSL. And I'm like, ooh, saves me from having to buy a Neve, an API, and an SSL.
Right. So it's a combination issue.
Yeah. And I contacted the company. Never responded. I'm like,
really?
Yeah. So I ended up getting, a big Pro Tools rig. Got that in here. And I suffered through that with that thing with 6 years just going, why can't I get a good mix? And I bring in and I cobble together just 16 channels out of a 32 channel console. And of an analog console, and I'm in a hybrid mode, and I'm like, okay, this sounds better than anything I've ever done. And I printed a mix out and I sent it to some guys, and they were like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Sounds great. I'm like, okay, there's my proof. The client likes it. They like it better than they were like, don't know what you did, but we really like it. And I'm like, okay, cool.
So what Dave was alluding to also just reminded me, he's listening to, let's say he's listening to music with those pods.
Yeah.
And you're listening to music in your studio with those big monitors behind you. And I'm listening to the same music with these professional headphones on. These big suckers. How do you know your mix is good if you're listening, if people are going to be listening to all these different things? You said something about that speakers lie. I love that.
Yeah. Well, these lie.
Yeah.
Those earbuds are lying. Where's that? Yeah. This damn thing lies.
Oh yeah.
This laptop lies. Every speaker lies because no speaker is going to sound the same in every environment.
Right.
the big room, you get in a nice big room, take a laptop into an auditorium and turn it up.
Right.
You're going to hear nothing.
Right.
So, and everybody says, well, my speakers, will give me this frequency response, all day long. And it's like, they will in an anechoic chamber.
Right.
You're right. So you're finding, I suppose, the compromise.
Absolutely.
Because you've got, you have people listening in the car, you have people listening on the iPhones, which is what a shame that we do listen so much on these,
Yeah.
because we there's no real fidelity coming out of that thing,
Not like this, but if you plug in a set of headphones,
right,
it's not too bad.
Then it's not too bad. And just like these have the microphone on this, it's insane that something, it's because I don't have a brain, but I have a skull. And I guess it's getting the reverberations, from my voice into there. And it's shockingly good for something that is not in front of my mouth.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what a lot of guys.
What are you on, by the way, right now? Because you sound very good. What is your audio?
iMac? I mean, no, it's not. It's a Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. What is this thing? It's just a laptop.
So you're using the microphone from your laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you sound fantastic.
So much
and
for my
funny.
fancy Shure mic. I might have to sell this thing, save some money, and just talk.
But it is kind of crazy. I'm not, like I said, I'm not in my regular home studio right now on the road. But I thought, what, these AirPods are probably going to sound just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
And I'll beef up the EQ for you, Dave. Don't worry. You'll sound like you're.
That's right.
You'll sound like you have big balls.
But
there you go. I'll take it.
But the thing is that and this is what I try and tell a lot of guys, because when I built my studio, I did a studio build blog. It was up on recording.org, but it's been taken down many, many years ago. But I had something like 47,000 views on it.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, because I built it from the ground up, and
you could see some of the pictures on your Facebook page. There's some behind the scenes, building it and whatnot.
Yeah, and I've got the whole build on the website as well.
Yeah,
and I was very, very fortunate in that Roger Vay took some mercy on me and said, okay, you need an engineer certification on your drawings. All right, send it to me. Right. So I sent him my blueprints. Well, again, Rod had been kind of coaching me along with some of the other moderators, and this gets a little bit crazy. And, and I'm like, okay, I'm going through all the math and I'm, studying all this stuff, as much as I possibly can. And I said, okay, there seems to be, or there's got to be a point of no more return on investment. It's the amount of space in between your walls, because I was doing room within a room, which is basically each room sits on its own independent concrete slab, and then you got an air gap, and how thick of this air space you need to cushion everything. And Rod says 24 inches. Okay. Well, that changed my design quite a bit, because now I got to put 2 feet between, the wall in the control room and the wall in the tracking room. I'm losing a lot of square footage, because I had calculated it to be about 16. He's telling me to go to 24. Well, Rod's the expert. And Rod, I'm not going to give away all your secrets, but and I hope he doesn't mind me telling this. But I sent him my blueprints, because I talked to structural engineers, I talked to some of the big names in studio design, and they were like, "No, we're not going to certify anybody else's drawings, because that's what we do. We design. No, we just don't do that." And I'm like, okay. And so Rod, took some mercy on me, and I sent him the drawings. And he's like, what the hell are you doing wasting all of this space? And I'm like, you told me to. He's like, bullshit. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, no. And this is email going back and forth, fast
That's
emails
funny.
during the day. And he says, you tell me where I did. So I copied the post, that I had in the thread, and I sent it to him. A couple of days goes by. He sends me an email. He's like, do you still have those original blueprints? and I said, yeah, I do. He's like, send them to me.
Oh,
So I
boy.
sent him the drawings. And then he sends me back an email later that day. He says, I apologize. I thought we were talking about the stud difference or the stud spacing as opposed to the difference in the wall. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay. He's like, I steered you wrong.
All right, gotcha.
So
So there's what do you got? 16 inches? Is that what you're at?
yeah, it's 16 inches.
Yeah.
What are the materials?
Oh gosh. Like I said, each room sits on its own independent concrete pad.
That's already incredible. I would never have thought of that.
I who'd have thought?
Yeah.
But that low frequency will transfer through.
Absolutely, of course.
Like a
so if
guitar, like a bass, like
Sure.
a
kick drum,
yeah.
Piano that's being played on the floor,
Yeah,
congas on the
Your
floor.
floor becomes a
Exactly.
conductor of sound. Yeah,
Exactly. So
I just thought of a funny story. I'll try not to forget it. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then all the walls in the control room are 2x6 stud walls. Then there's R19 insulation in the bay, and then there's 3/4 inch OSB, and then 2 layers of gypsum with it's called green glue, but it's not really a glue. It's more like a big tube of green 3-year-old snot.
Yeah.
And when I say 3-year-old, if you've ever been around a 3-year-old, you know what a 3-year-old snot looks like.
yeah.
So this is
It's
some kind of green absorbent goo sound.
Yeah.
It's like a dessert topping.
Almost. It's actually called a constrained layer dampening material.
Right.
Interesting. Gypsum
Snot.
is just drywall, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
Yeah. So it's 3/4 inch.
You're
it's 2
doubling
layers.
yeah.
And
Two
what you do is
3/4.
yeah. So you've got one layer going on this way and another layer going on that way.
Snot.
No,
Okay.
of the drywall.
Right.
But
So
there's snot
alternating.
between the two drywalls, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
And then there's 1 inch of rigid insulation, and then there's furring strips going between it, and then there's the slats there's fabric, fireproof fabric. God, I can't even do this right.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah, it's backwards. So there's a green fabric that's actually automotive fabric that I got from a local company here, and it passed fire code, so that's on there, and then the slats.
Right.
And
So that's like shiplap almost, right? Or is it?
no, it's actually it's actually tongue and
wood?
groove flooring. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually Jatoba in here. And then that's oak, and the oak came off the property. The tracking room is red oak, and that all came off the property. And I had some prettiest tree on the property. Lost it in an ice storm, so that's in the ISO booth. And then I had a walnut tree that came down, and so I've done all the trim in the tracking room with the walnut.
That's beautiful. So you were talking about this different slabs, right?
Yeah.
So I'm living in this condo, right? And I can't play drums in the condo, right? That's not going to happen. So I got myself
Why not?
an electronic pad,
Yeah.
if you will, and that was good enough to record with. And I had a foot pedal thing, like that you'd
Yeah.
use on an electronic kit.
Yeah.
So I figure I'm totally silent. I could play all hours of the night. Nobody's gonna hear anything. I'm
Bullshit.
thumping away.
Get a knock on the door.
I was like, I didn't even think that thumping noise would travel through the floor to the next apartment. I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah. And you don't realize it.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that who would think of that? You even said who would have thunk it that you need separate slabs, but it makes sense.
But that low frequency would travel across the entire slab.
I would have. I mean, if you were to go out to your property and you were to take like a hammer to a cinder block, it's going to reverberate. I would think.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, and if you think about low frequency, because there's a lot of energy in low frequency that we don't really think about. What about the guy who's got the 4 18-inch subs in the trunk of his car?
Yeah.
The kid who's running up and down the street. You can hear that damn thing from a half a mile away.
Yeah,
if it's really quiet. You can hear it at least 3 or 4 blocks away. Well, that low frequency, those wavelengths are so long that they will come right through maps.
I could always tell if my wife's watching a movie and I come home, I could hear the I could hear the little thing. I hear my Polk audio subwoofer cranking away.
Yeah. Now when you so with speakers and sound, so you have your walls. Now, how do you make your choices for the monitors for the musicians to hear? Old school, new school,
both.
Yeah,
both. Yeah. I've got several. Let's see, I probably got about 16 pair of headphones, and I got a couple of different types of earbuds. And a lot of musicians are now playing with in-ears.
Right.
So, I'm like, bring your in-ears, plug in.
But what's the deal these days? Because I'm looking at the clock, and it's in a great way. This is flying.
Yeah.
In terms of, give us your sense of the trend of musicians wanting to be isolated versus them wanting to have a little bit of bleeding from one musician to another during a recording.
Oof. Very much. Well, both philosophies are coexisting.
Okay.
Now I get a lot of. I'm primarily performance based, as far as the folks that come in here, because it's a great drum room, and because it's a great drum room, it's a great piano room. Because it's a great piano room, it's a great Hammond room. Because it's a great Hammond room, it's also a great vocal room. It's also a great guitar room for acoustic guitar. It's a good room. It's just a good room. And so, because I get so much performance here, and what's really kind of interesting is that, I'm getting kids from, 6 local universities and 2 community colleges that come in here. It's interns, and they're like, oh no, we play jazz, we play, we're playing folk music, we're playing Americana, we're playing classical, just a little bit of anything and everything, but it's all performance based. And they're like, I want to learn how to record drums, I want to learn how to record as many instruments as I can. And so I get a lot of performance here, and a lot of them, I kind of believe in the philosophy that, a grid is necessary when it's necessary. So, we're going to put the drums on the clock. We're going to, timeline everything because it's a 30-second commercial, or it's, for commercial release, that, somebody's trying to do for, for a certain genre, like pop or, R&B, hip hop, that kind of stuff. So they're used to everything being on the grid. Especially for movies and for television and for commercials, because you can't go 31 seconds for a 30-second commercial. You got to have 30 seconds. Yeah. And then, the vast majority of guys that come in here, it's just like, if it ain't got that swing, it ain't got no thing.
Right.
And they want the vibe more than the
Hey, they don't want to play
crispness.
to a click track
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
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 And
So it depends.
yeah, and there's some hybrid stuff. I got some drummers who are like, no, I can't play to a click. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'll try and put the guitar player on a click, or I'll put the bass player on a click, or I'll put everybody but the drummer on a click. Or, I've got the opposite. I'll put the drummer on a click and nobody else listens to it. Because the drummer, he's just needing to know where he is. And
Yep.
And if you get used to playing with a click, 90% of the time that click goes away. You don't even hear it. It's there to tell you when you screw up. It's not to tell you when you're on.
Right.
Because when you're on, click goes away. So it doesn't, a lot of guys, it doesn't bother. But yet, I do a lot of folk. I do a lot of country. I've got bluegrass, newgrass, jazz, funk, punk, soul, R&B, acapella groups, doing classical, Americana.
Tons of stuff.
Oh yeah, I get everything.
Well, you know what? You said something that I loved, and it made me think of an experience I had last summer. So you talked about the room.
Yeah.
And until it's done, you put so much thought, so much architecture, so much science into that room, and you kind of got lightning in a bottle, right? And I would
Interesting
imagine.
choice of words.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, okay. There's a story behind that, I suspect.
Yeah.
There's a place near Scott and I called the Lizzie Rose Music Room. And it's just an old house that, some music lovers of a certain age, like kind of our age, decided to turn into a music venue with no liquor license. And I saw some bands there.
Yeah.
But the room, it's just a fucking room. It sounds so good. And
there's not a bad seat in the room. Yeah. There's not a bad seat in there.
And the sound is so good that really, really, really good bands for very little money will want to play there.
Yeah.
When they're touring, they don't tour big places, but they'll get bands that'll play like Scott the Stone Pony. And this is a little room. This is like a 75-seat room, maybe.
Yeah.
And the Stone Pony can get thousands of people if you're on the outdoor stage. But people who run that kind of circuit, they want to stop there and they'll get good stuff done. And I'm thinking with you didn't know how good your room would sound until it sounded so good, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
It's kind of funny that you used the term lightning in a bottle, because everybody's like, well, how did you get into all this? Well, it's actually my wife's fault.
Okay.
I was in another trade, another profession, and so I played golf a lot, and we went out on a local golf course, and we were trying to get in and out, because we were cheap, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but we tried to get in an afternoon round, get the front nine or the back nine, get in, get off the course and go home. Right. And so we were out on the golf course, and, I hit a great shot. I was just like, hey, I'm actually starting to find my game. It actually went straight down the fairway. And, everybody else is, like hooked off into the woods, and shanked out into the creek, so everybody's out finding the balls. And I'm like, screw these guys. I'm going to go ahead and play through. So, I got up on the green first, and I'm like, these guys are still trying to find the balls. I said, I'm going to go ahead and, hole out, and got ready to putt. And all of a sudden, big cloud comes across, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so I went ahead and putted out, and I'm like, okay, well, there's a shelter here, and it looks like, we might get some rain. So got on the shelter, and everybody's, getting on the green, and they're holing out, and, it's starting to rain some more, and, like, okay, well, we're going to come into the shelter. We'll be out of here in a few minutes. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the emergency room.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
You got hit by lightning?
Yes, we did.
Wow.
Like Ted Knight in Caddyshack.
Yeah.
The bishop.
Yeah.
Oh, the bishop. That's right.
Yeah. Basically holding a lightning rod in your hand, Oh, that's unbelievable.
So what happened? So you were but you were in the shelter when it happened. So how did it get you?
Step leader kicked off about a 80-foot, 100-foot tall pine tree, came down, hit the shelter. My buddy was standing, you know how the opening in a golf shelter is. I was on one side, he was on the other, and it came down came through, hit him in the jaw,
Holy moly.
and came out his knee. Was dead before he hit the ground. Got the rest of us.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Oh my
well,
gosh.
yeah, lightning sucks.
Wow.
And, yeah, it was a shocking experience. Okay.
Golf
No,
sucks.
You
Golf
have
sucks
to.
as it is, and that's even worse.
I don't have any special powers other than I can piss my wife off like that.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a hell
So
of a
What was
story.
your injury? What happened? Other than, do you have big injuries? You?
yeah,
But
I'm a
that doesn't
drummer.
count.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
drummer.
right. Yeah.
And I'm a studio owner. Double whammy.
Yeah.
Dad was a drummer, and I also drum. So there you go.
Yeah,
You're in perfect company.
Yeah. And so my wife got tired of me, because, you have all kinds of issues. There's, physical issues, mental issues, emotional issues, chemical imbalances and all that kind of good stuff. And my wife was like, I'm tired of you beating on that steering wheel. Go play some music. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm done. She's like, no, go play some music. Get it out of your damn system, something. So I went and played music, and we ended up playing out some, and we got a few gigs, and we got a few more gigs, and then we were playing a big charity event, and and some guys from the Shrine Club said, hey, we'd like to come play the Moose Lodge and the Shriners up here in Charlotte, but we got to have a demo. Okay, yeah, sure.
Ah.
So,
How come you didn't say check my socials?
yeah, if only we
didn't
had
have
them at
that.
that. Yeah, we didn't have them at that time.
I used to walk
And-
around with a cassette with my phone number on it all the time.
Yeah. So, I tried to find out how much it was going to cost to get a demo done. And, God, this is 30 years ago, 35 years ago. And, it was going to be like 10 grand. And we're like,
What?
whoa, dude, no, that's insane. So talk to the guy at the music store. He's like, hey, there's this new thing called home recording. It's easy to do. Lying son of a bitch.
Next thing you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I started buying gear, and then I bought more gear, then I sold gear, then I bought more gear, then I sold and bought and bought and bought and sold. And here I am.
I don't think I've turned my home recording thing on in years. I think it burns CDs. That's how goddamn old it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I plug right into my iPhone and noodle to backing tracks, and that's
Yeah.
it. That's all.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how this place ended up being here.
It's fantastic.
it's
That's a
kind of-
great. I mean, it's a sad backstory, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it brings you here.
I didn't want to
Yeah.
forget to ask you about the soldering iron bit.
Oh,
since
yeah.
that's the first video of yours I saw,
Oh, is it really?
and I think I watched it 600 times. It makes me laugh every damn time.
Yeah.
So give us the tagline. I already know it, but
Yeah. If you're getting ready to solder something and it smells like chicken, you're holding the wrong damn end.
There you go.
Turn it around.
And with that,
I
I
like
think
that.
it's a good time to wrap it up, gentlemen. We went an hour.
it
Talking
felt like
about
5
studio.
minutes. This is
Really? Did we
great.
go an hour already?
Dark Fine, yeah.
We
And
did.
oh, man.
We did.
I'm wearing
In a very good way,
That metal, that metal show shirt. I have to plug my friend Jim Florentine, who was
Hell yeah.
nice to send me the shirt. That's his website, jimflorentine.com, for tour dates and information. Thank you very much, Jim. He sent me a couple of nice shirts. You can get this shirt at jimflorentine.com. Great show. I miss it. I wish you would come back, but how it is.
Yeah.
A lot of kids are digging the rock and roll now, so maybe it'll do well.
There you go.
What else can we say, Dave?
This was absolutely fantastic, and you're a first for us. We love talking gear. We love the backstory, and I'll tell you what. If we have a lot of friends all over the country and elsewhere, not just here. So if you were down by Dark Pines, definitely avail yourself of this great studio. We have our QR code all over this podcast. But you were great, and thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Max, don't be ashamed. Make sure you go to the Instagram and Facebook only for Max, and of course YouTube for the live band thing you got going. What's the name of that again?
Live from Dark Pine Studios.
There you go. So
I
check
like
that
it.
out.
I like it.
I'm gonna be checking
Yeah,
that.
check-
It has. I saw some of the videos. It does have some of that Daryl's house vibe
Yeah.
to it, which I love that show, and it's a great way to put some local talent out there for people to check out. So I really think that's fantastic.
Because video's not going to go away. It's here to stay.
It is.
And a lot of bands, I try to, it's affordable for them, and we do a trade. They get a copy of the video, and I put it up on YouTube, and maybe someday it'll monetize itself.
Right.
That's the risk that I'm willing to take, and then they get promo material.
That's fantastic.
And you're spreading the love, which is great.
Well, if you don't give back,
You ain't gonna get.
you ain't gonna get it back either.
That's right. That's right.
I saw this the other night. You can be a Republican or you can be a Democrat, but don't be a dick.
That's right. That's right.
So
That's
I love that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that counts the three of us out, but oh well.
Yeah, But yeah, man, I appreciate it. I've really had a good time. I can't believe we've gone an hour already.
I know that's what
this
happens.
is the story. We've been on for a little over 6 years now.
Yeah,
it's in a good way. It's the story of our show. Like first of all, you come in as a stranger, you leave as a friend.
Yeah,
and everyone, including one of our dear friends who works in Hollywood, he couldn't believe that he thought it was 10 minutes and it was an hour.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it's just been about 15 minutes,
Yeah,
So,
that's the way it is. Yep.
Yeah. But if you guys get a chance, come on down. Love to have you guys.
I love
We
that
would
area.
love to check you
Love
out.
that area.
Yeah,
All
man.
right.
We'll make some noise.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, have a great night, and thank you for all our friends at Guitar Tales. Check us out on all forms of social media.
Yeah, I
Have a great night,
I
everyone.
have a Tiki thing. Tiki, I don't know what Tiki is. TIKKY. It's a counter that connects to the internet, right?
Yeah.
For our page, and I go downstairs every day and I see if it's ticking, and it's stuck on 10,100. I need more subscribers. Push the
Yeah.
button.
We will get them.
Make my day. Let's end the show with Bumblefoot again, because it's one of my favorite bumpers of all time, and we'll see you next
It
time with
is.
Guitar Tales.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and you're watching Guitar Tales.